Hello, everybody. Um, Thanks for joining us today. It is sweltering hot. I have a live look at me before the show, and it's brutal here. It's not fun. I have a tank top on. Everyone's jealous. I just know it, and I appreciate Nick saying that's just Pete. You'll get used to it because it is hot, and I am certainly mediocre looking at best, and I appreciate that. Um, as far as today's show goes, I am super pumped. This is the first double dip, I'm going to be calling it. It is two people that I have really grown to appreciate as friends outside of even just the indie community. Both of them were two of the first books I got sent to me and purchased when I first started getting into the scene. And that's what brings us here today. We're going to be talking about the new anthology that's going to be coming out with their other group. Both of them are members of Willow Wraith Press and also members of the Secret Scribes, which was the first group that I started trying to knock down every book and reading it. And I think I made quite a dent in them. But it's reassuring that they are still pumping out some great stuff. I have a lot more to do from their group, and every one of them that I've read so far has been great. So I am just going to bring them both on now. We have Mr. Alex and Mr. Bill.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
How's everyone doing today? You
I
guys
just
both look a
realized
lot more
something though.
comfortable.
Look at we got like the whole. Alex has this, you got this, I got this going. You got the whole facial hair gamut here.
Yeah, if you put both of you guys together, you get me,
Exactly.
which is pretty sweet.
And
Pete,
then
did you call us
go
dips
with
at the beginning of the stream?
Call you what?
Dips?
No, I said this is the first double dip.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Why, is dips
That's some
bad?
kind of East Coast joke.
I've been told that I am much more of a West Coast vibe than East Coast, so that's how we're gonna roll with it. I have to speed up my dialect, but yeah, I am pumped to have both of you guys here. Very big encouragement coming from you guys, even just getting this started along the way, especially with everything that's currently getting built over there. Bill, one of the founders, doing a great job getting everything up and running. Alex, in charge of pumping out the Porridge Report weekly, which has been making waves because they are fucking hilarious and everyone does a great
Yeah,
job.
there's some good ones.
There have been awesome ones. So I very much appreciate being in a group with both of you guys, and even more so because I've been fans of both of yours before joining up together, and that's really what brings us here. Because if you guys want to, either one of you could jump in and tell us about the Secret Scribes, which is your guys' other writing collective. So brief us on that a little bit.
Alex, you want to take it?
Sure. So the Secret Scribes were a dozen authors who kind of randomly, based on Dave Lawson, he just had a shout out of, "Hey, do we want to join a writing group? Anyone want to join?" And because I had read Envoys of War as a beta, and Dave, he writes decent work. I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, but the Secret Scribes is kind of an author collective. We try to do some joint marketing. We try to help each other behind the scenes for strategies and talk a little bit about writing advice and how did you do KDP through this and some of those writing details. So in that kind of collaborative spirit, we decided to write an anthology. And so that's probably what we're going to be talking about quite a lot here is coming up soon, Locks and Keys, fantasy anthology, written by 10 different members of the Secret Scribes. And we'll talk about it more here shortly. But Bill, do you have anything you want to say about the Scribes?
No, it's funny because like when the Scribes started, it was like literally the same week that I had talked to some of the original guys in Willow Wraith Press. So Will Wraith Press started with me and Dewey as our actual press that we published our books under, our books under. But I wanted to like branch out and like, do the same thing that Alex just described with the scribes. But like literally the week that I started talking to Mike Roberti and Tim Wolf about, joining forces, and then Andrew Meredith joined a little bit later, Dave put out the blast of like, hey, does anybody want to join a group? So I was like, I joined or created a group and joined a group within like a week of each other. And it's like the same concept. And now it's just like one kind of big nebulous thing at this point. But at the time though, it was, and Alex mentioned this a little bit, like this was all at the beginning when we all were really starting out publishing. Like every one of us in the scribes were either one book barely out, like, maybe a month or two. And then the rest of us were just about to start releasing. And there's still a couple that haven't released, that are still working on their releases. So it's been kind of a great thing to have other authors, in the same steps of the journey to just kind of like bounce not only ideas off of, but to bounce the woes off of, to go through these ups and downs of the indie publishing sphere. So it's been really, really nice to have. And, I definitely think the scribes have, and obviously, WWP on the side, all these people have become really, really, really good friends, not just writer friends, but they become good friends. Like you mentioned, Pete, at the beginning of this, it's been great to have, to be honest. So
yeah, even just being behind the scenes, watching all of you guys, like you said, go through the highs and lows of the indie world, it has given me much more of an appreciation for how much effort you guys put in. It's crazy to watch behind the scenes. It's like I told someone in there the other day, I still don't have the attention span to put like 50 words down, and you guys are pumping stuff out, and it's awesome to watch, and especially the encouragement of one another behind the scenes. It's awesome.
It also helps that we can, not just push each other, but we can also kind of slightly make fun of each other to kind of like break up tension. Not like tension between us as people, but like just the tension of this thing that we're trying to do. Books out there, which it's very hard. It's not a easy thing to do. The easy thing to do is sign up and to put the books out, but to actually be successful, not in whatever your success level is, it's not easy at all.
Yeah, it's a grind that I have seen. Yeah, so nothing but respect and props to you guys for doing it. And the Secret Scribes group I have here, I'm going just to read off the list of short stories because we got 10 of them here, including from both of you. R.A. Sandpiper, Sean O'Boyle, L.M. Douglas, G.J. Terrell, who's been on the show, Bella Dunn, Tom Bookbeard, Ari Sanders, Bill, Dave, and Alex. That's a stacked list of people. One person who I didn't see on there, which I actually just realized, is Lamia not writing anything. She's just doing the artwork for it.
Yeah, that's right. So for Locks and Keys, we tried to get as much scribe participation as possible, but some people couldn't write for whatever reason. Lamia just had a child, so she was like, I don't think I could write a story, but she is going to be doing the cover art, and I've seen a couple of clips of it. It's not quite done yet, but it's going to be awesome. So
yeah, I originally wasn't writing a short story because like Lamia and Alex, who still somehow did it in that time, we all had children, babies around the same time period, and I was just burnt out after book releases, and the baby, we had some issues, complications, and stuff like that. So I was like, I don't think I'm going to read or be able to write one. But I did offer to do the editing on all the short stories. And as I was editing these, Alex being the hard taskmaster that he was, giving me deadlines and stuff, as I was reading them, and like I slowly started getting out of my post-release blues as I was reading these and editing them. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just do it. And I didn't even tell Alex because I had a story that was, I trunked a little while ago that, I didn't know what I wanted to do with. And so I just pulled it back out again and played with it and used the theme. And I just shot it out. And then, when I got it done before the deadline that Alex set for me, I was like, what do you think about another story in here? And he's like, wait, what? So I sent it to him. He gave me some feedback, and I, did some editing and all that stuff. But yeah, like I said, I wasn't planning to write one or even to do that part of it. I was just going to do the editing and call it a day. But I'm glad I was able to do it because, if I was going to do any anthology with anybody, I'd wanted to do with the scribes because like that was like the first brotherhood, of my journey basically as in the writing game. So I was happy to be able to do that and contribute.
Yeah, it was a great surprise at the last minute, 2 days before the deadline. He's like, oh, by the way, I wrote a story too. I was like, excellent, but okay.
But we're good, actually. We hit the limit.
I had to consult the council, and we were like, this Bill guy?
Yeah.
Oh, fine.
It was that little bit of Gladiator where they just...
Yeah, but then the best part was when Alex was like, oh, we got an announcement, like, and there's like a secret in there, and because nobody else knew that I did it, and then nobody said anything. That
I told all those guys and no one commented on
it. They were just like, oh, great, Bill's back. I don't want to give any spoilers away or anything because it's easy for me. I don't know the plot of the stories, but what is most anthologies, have that running theme along with all of them, and what is the theme for this one? And are some of the stories that you guys have written kind of correlating to previous works? Like, is there tie-in, or is this all new original type stuff?
Yeah. Well, so let me answer the theme thing first. So when we kicked off this anthology, we set a theme. A couple rules, pretty simple for the anthology. They're all adult fantasy stories. Some can be a little bit more vulgar and graphic than others. We got a pretty good spectrum. But the theme was locks, keys, and secrets, because we wanted to go something related to the secret scribes in general. And we thought that would be a really fun way to kind of give a very diverse set of stories with a very loose theme, but also kind of tie the whole collection of stories together around a central point. So yeah, I've personally reviewed all the stories, and they all have something to do with locks, keys, or secrets, and multiple of the stories have all three of those inside. So I think it's really, really good. We have some really good stories in here, like some amazing stories
too, which is really good. Like Alex said, some of them, mine included our world, like our existing stories, but then there's a bunch of other ones that are their own thing, and they're completely different from each other. It's a good, spectrum of stories from more like urban-esque to contemporary to a little bit of horror to epic fantasy. There's just like a good spectrum of stories in there.
Yeah, the mix of people that you guys have in there really it runs the gamut of fantasy from one to the next. Like I said at the beginning, you guys were the first group where I think I was like the unofficial scribes reader for a little bit there, because I think I did Dave's, Alex's, Bill's, Lamia, firing them off, and I still have every person's on my Kindle ready to go. Like I have the L.M. Douglas book ready. R.A. Sam, all these people are just there, and I'm going to get to them. I made it's hard. I made that classic mistake of getting into this scene and being like, oh my god, an arc, sign up. Oh my god, an arc, sign up. And then I got like 500 emails, and every one of them is like, so yeah, if it could be like that review posted in like maybe a month or so. And I was just like, ooh, Like, I didn't realize it, and it's awesome because all of you guys are, for the most part, so prolific at this. It's profession, and there, stuff is coming out all the time, and each, like I said, it runs the gamut of stuff, and each one of your guys that I've read has its own unique voice to it. Like even just Alex's, yours is very different from Bill's, and that's just the two of you that I have on right now. Every person in this collective has a different voice, and I'm super pumped to see all of this put together. This is as strong of a lineup that I can think of.
Well, the good thing is, since the year, a little over a year we've been together as a group, this might be the longest break between somebody releasing a book, which would be, I think, Bella's Epic at the end of April, or maybe Greg was in there at May. Was Greg in May?
Greg was May.
Sean was after Bella.
Well, Pawns, I guess. Yeah, I guess we can. I forget about
that. You don't have to.
We don't count Bella's.
But I don't think the next book for anybody's coming out until like the fall. So I think we have like 6 months in between. I think Rach, R.A. Sandpiper, is going to be the next one up.
Yeah. She's August, I think, or August or September.
Yeah. So there's a good chunk, and there's a good time period in there to catch up there, Pete.
Yeah. I'm going to end the stream now. I will be back in August.
But kind of going in a little bit more detail. So, yeah, 6 of the stories are tied into the existing worlds or upcoming worlds of some of the authors, and 4 are completely original new stories unrelated to some previous works. So, like, if you've read the God's Blood Tragedy, for example, this story is in the same world, and you might recognize some of the characters. You might not. No spoilers, but.
No, there's no crossover yet.
And then also, like, even more exciting, 2 of the stories are going to be published in these worlds that you haven't seen yet, that have not been released as books. So Tom Bookbeard he's got a novel upcoming called The Corsair. And so his short story is in that world, but it's going to be released before The Corsair is out. So you can think of it as kind of like an exclusive preview of the Corsair world and, Tom's writing style, because he hasn't published anything yet.
It is technically a prequel because it's about one of the main characters in the main book.
I love that.
Crew. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then also G.J. Terrell, his story is kind of a prequel for Cracks of the Deepest Black, which is his upcoming epic fantasy, Final Fantasy, too many fantasies, inspired world that I had the pleasure of alpha reading. But so his short story is going to be really exciting for everyone who loves Greg's work, and it's another really good one.
Oh, that's going to be awesome. I'm excited about that, especially the prequel aspect of things, because one of our other buddies, ZB, Inkling, was his little novella that led into kind of the end of Whispers. It tied in together, and I think that was a nice way of doing that for him. So I'm excited to see Tom's book, especially coming in not having read anything, because like you said, nothing's been published before. I think that's absolutely awesome. And I am on book 2 of Greg's series, along with everybody else's, actually. I am across the board on book 2s. But I like the prequel aspect. Yeah, that's all I keep hearing from you guys. And I love book 1 of all of your guys' stuff. And so, I keep hearing, book 1 is kind of but book 2 rules. And I love book 1s. I'm just like, you guys are kind of screwing up my rating system. If I'm giving a 4.5 to books that you guys think are mids, I don't know what to do anymore.
I mean, it's kind of hard to not be objective and say second book is better than the first one.
Well, It's funny you say that, because I think about that all the time, and we talk about it quite a lot in the Scribes chat, is just how much we've all improved as authors from our initial debut release. And I think you'll see that in these stories as well, is that everyone's writing gets a little bit more concise. Everyone has a better, line of sight to the characterization, to the plot, and so I think that's really interesting that you kind of bring that up. But I truly do think these stories are better than all of our debuts, because we've all developed as authors, and kind of gotten more experience, and gotten feedback from our debuts, and I became better writers. And so yeah, I put your expectations pretty high for these stories, all right?
I love it.
I mean, there's no, reading it from an editor perspective, there's no shortcomings in this group at all. And like Alex said, I've read every Scribes book except for Thea. I haven't read Thea's yet because Thea's new to the Scribes, relatively new. I haven't had a chance to read any of Thea's works yet. But everyone else, I've read their first books. And like Alex said, there's been a lot of step ups as authors there, and that's great. It's like you don't want the sophomore slump, of like bands. You'd always hear like they come out strong with that awesome first album, and then their second album is rushed, and it just is awful. You don't want to do that as an author. That's the key, is you want to continue, like Nick said in the chat, keep growing, always improvement, and it's definitely been there in this Scribes, from the first books to some of the second books I've read to, this anthology. It's gotten very strong. And like Alex said, the proof is in the writing in these stories. Definitely. Like it's a lot better, as we've gotten better as writers.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very excited to hear all this. I want to ask each one of you separately, what do you think? Because again, going back to kind of how every person has their own voice and is continuing to grow, what do you each think is the most unique of these stories? Like, which one is kind of just like outside the box, where it would be not what you're expecting?
I think for me, the one that surprised me the most was probably Bella's. And the only reason why is because it's got a little bit of a horror aspect to it. I haven't read her epic fantasy yet, but her other, The Dream's Thief, is a very fantasy romance heavy story with, some fairies and stuff. And this one, her story is got a little bit of a gothic flair. There's witches and stuff in it, but it's contemporary. It's still contemporary, which is what her one story is. But it has the gothic and a little bit of horror in it. And I was not expecting that, actually, when I read it. So I was quite impressed with that. And then R.A. Sandpiper's was really good, too. I was surprised at how dark she got with the ending, which was really cool. I'm not going to spoil anything of what goes on in this story, but it was a darker ending than I thought was going to be with the beginning of the story.
Yeah, so I was gonna say R.A. Sandpiper's. That was what surprised me the most, and I think what it was about it is it has a really deep theme to it, and the ending is not what you expect it to how you expect it to happen. And so, like, even as Bill was reading it, he was messaging me. He's like, "I don't understand. How did this happen?" I was like, "No, think about it really carefully, and this totally makes sense." He's like, "Oh, I get it. So that one was really good. And then I would say, probably Lorraine L.M. Douglas's story would be my number two that surprised me the most. And I worked with her quite a bit on kind of getting it drafted for the anthology, back and forth, and gave her some feedback. But she's got some really interesting twists as well in that one. And let's just say there's a pretty graphic scene in there that everyone seemed to really like in the Scribes when they got to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a shocker to say the least. It like Alex said, it's graphic, but when you talk to Lorraine. She's like the sweetest person like ever. Like she's
She is
so
incredibly nice.
she's just so sweet and nice and genuine. And then when I got to that scene, I was like, "What the fuck? Where did this come from?" Like it's like something I would write, like that's.
Yep.
But also that story too is technically a prequel to her series. It's based on one of the characters that you meet in the first book, which I thought it was a good jumping point for her world, because her world is kind of complex. There is some complexity there, but this character, you don't see this side of, or any type of side besides the side you're supposed to see, and in book one. And so it is really good to see this in this story, because in book two he becomes a little bit more of a interesting character. He's, in the first book he's just kind of, I don't want to say a cartoon cutout, but like he's depicted a certain way from the eyes of the other characters, and you don't know anything about him otherwise because of that. So in book two he really kind of grows a little bit, and then in this prequel story it's his upbringing, and he's a cool character. He's a really cool character with nuance and stuff.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and say it. So this is Chiron, who's going to be the main character of this story, and this one's all about his past life in Sarfa, which is another coastal city in a completely different place. So, like Bill said, reading this, I read both of Lorraine's 2 books that are released so far, and I had a certain understanding of who Chiron was as a character, but this backstory really recontextualizes who he is, and it kind of gives you, in the first story, you're from a certain perspective, and so this is kind of like an outsider character to the main group, but the way you see him in that story versus the way you see him in this prequel is very different, and I think it does a wonderful job at kind of pre-contextualizing and recontextualizing kind of the character altogether and what happens in that first book. So yeah, I think it's a great story.
I think the coolest thing about this is it's so obvious to see that you guys are all such big fans of one another, and the way. Mostly, we're gonna leave the bald guy out of this.
Keep it in, Alex.
I meant you guys.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But in the scribes chat, were these guys' ideas kind of bounced off one another and workshopped that way, or was this more of a I'm gonna do my own thing? This is when it's supposed to be done by, and it's going to be all new to you guys when you read it. That type of way. Like, did you guys all go in blind to each other's stories, or was there kind of some, feedback along the way?
Yeah, I would say it's a mix. We had some people who were like, "Hey, this is my idea. Does this sound good?" I threw together a couple paragraphs. Can you guys read this? And does this sound reasonable? And then some people were just like, "Yeah, I'm working on it. Yeah, I'm working on it. Here you go. Here it is." So, like with any group, there's a big mix. But
from my end, I went in it completely blind, because we had a channel dedicated to the anthology, and I muted it. When I offered to do the editing, I muted it because I wanted to go into these stories completely blind, as if I was, being paid to edit somebody's story off the, out of the blue. Mm. So I didn't want to know anything going in. I told them what my process was going to be. I was going to read each story first and then go back and start editing, just so I knew what the ending point was and all that stuff. So I went in 100% blind to each story. The only one that I knew a little bit about was Alex's, because he shared a little bit of it earlier with me before. He was the first one I got really first. So I kind of had a little bit of an idea going in with what he had before I just fully dove into the edits.
How long have you guys been working on this project? Like, when was it started? I've seen other anthology ideas come up, not with you guys obviously, but come up, and I know writers love deadlines. Like, you guys really enjoy them. And was there not pushback against it, but how long has this process, I think it's going to end up getting released towards the end of the summer. when did this brainstorm start happening?
Yeah,
and
so I
really
mean,
get these balls moving?
we started floating the idea of the anthology back when we just joined the Secret Scribes. So it was one of the ideas we had from the very beginning. I would say it took us a couple months to actually solidify that we wanted to do it and what would it be about and all that kind of thing. So, it's been about a year.
I think the big push came out when the Advent of Winter anthology was released, because we saw that everywhere. And then since Alex took over, being the project manager of the thing, he kind of said it that, okay, we are doing this. I think it was probably around September-ish of last year when it was like, this is it, we're doing it. And then he goes, okay, you have until Christmas to get your story to Bill.
Oh, nice.
So they had all those months, 3.5 months or whatever it was, to write the story and give it to me. And then I had to the end of March to do the edits, to get the edits to everybody back to them. And then they did another round of quick edits after that in the beginning of April.
And honestly, the scribes were really good about meeting the deadline. I think I only had one person that kind of shirked the end of the year deadline, and I had
Dave.
Bill didn't even count. Bill did his own thing, surprise in February or something. I have this story, and then we had one more issue. I was like, okay, each of the stories, it's going to be a short story. And my definition of a short story is about 8,000 words, which is already on the high side, but we're epic fantasy, so whatever. And then they're like, well, can I do a little bit more, a little bit less? I was like, no. Okay, my definition is 8,000 typical, 6,000 minimum, 10,000 maximum, end of story. And Lorraine, L.M. Douglas, kept coming back. Are you sure it's 10,000 limit? I could write more than that. I was like, I know you can write more than that, but no, you must hit this limit. But I mean, in all honesty, they all the Secret Scribes are very business minded. They're like, okay, if I say something, I'm actually going to do it, and that was really nice because I definitely see in other artsy groups that it's not quite like that. It's a little bit more, whatever, go with the flow, and so some projects like this wouldn't be possible if we didn't have some commitment and some deadlines and stuff. So.
It was funny with Lorraine because, when you go into a edit job, there are a couple editors in the group, Tim and Audrey. There are a lot of times that things need extra words. So I knew going in we had a 10,000 word limit, and Lorraine literally was like 2 words under that on that first draft. So I was like, okay, I need this certain scene or this certain character needs some backstory, needs a little bit more. And I'm like, okay, where can we pull other words from to cut that down to make sure we stay within that limit? And then it was funny because she did some extra cuts. And then she's like, well, do you think I should add more here? Because I have all these extra words, we can use them. I'm like, no, you don't have to use those extra words. But then, my story on the other end was only 5,000 words. I kept it at the bottom. I was like, I'm forcing myself to do a lot of different things with this story. I wrote it in first person, which I don't typically like. I did it in present tense, which I don't really like. And I was like, I'm doing this in 5,000 words. I'm not going to do it I'm not going to make this 10,000 words. I'm going to do it in this time or this word count. Worked.
So were you able to gift Lorraine your 1,000 words?
Oh, she asked.
I was gonna say, it sounds like there should have been a little bit of a barter system there. Like if someone came under, she could have just been like, and then it ended and just added on, it tacked on and just anything that she could have.
So there's just a gap between my story and hers, and it just continues.
We have the rest of her story in the margin of everyone else's.
Yeah, exactly. I did want to ask because I think the lock and key and secrets idea is really awesome, especially, tying back into your guys' group name. If you guys are planning, not a sequel, but a next edition of an anthology, which I know this hasn't even been released yet, and I'm sure every author's favorite fucking question is when's book 2, as before book 1 comes out. But what do you guys think would be a cool theme for the next one? Or is that
I
too early
personally
for a
would love to
brainstorm?
see us do something completely different. I think it would be awesome that we would all have to write stories completely different to what we currently write, whether that be sci-fi or whether that be a different type of fantasy. I think that would be the cool way to do it, because I personally, Dave putting it,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's definitely coming.
yeah.
We've heard Dave's smut story, and it's appreciated, to say the least.
No, I mean, I think, like, this is a growth. Like, if we want to do, like, I used my short story, and like I said, in this anthology to push myself into a different area than I'm used to. And I think that would probably, like, if we decide to do a second one, I think we should do something along those lines.
Yeah, I think that's great. There's a lot of things you could do with it. You could even continue the theme. You could go something completely different, like Dave's cozy smut fantasy. I think everything's on the table for that.
I think an interesting idea, kind of going with both of them, would be, you guys, Bill and Dewey on the your other show have the spinning wheel, and what if you guys each put a genre in there with a person's name, and you just did it, and that's how the draw happened, like picking names out of a hat. So you don't know what you can get.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Get working.
No. I honestly, short stories are hard for me. I know a lot of people can write short stories like really quick and do it. It's not easy for me. It's just not how my brain works with coming up with story ideas to finish it in, that small of a space. Like, I wish I can write flash fiction, but I have no idea how people do it. Like, I just don't know how they do it.
Yeah, I mean that is a fun point. Is like the way you write novels and the way you write short stories is very different. Like with novels, you got a lot of space to develop things, to set the stage, to describe the world, and with these short stories, you don't. I mean, like I said, the 10,000 word maximum that I put up was already hard for some of the authors who are used to pages after pages of characterization, and you really have to be efficient with your words. You got to be efficient with your character arcs, your plot, and even the setting. You only have so much room to kind of describe where we are. Is it a modern setting? Is it medieval fantasy? Is it sci-fi? Is it something completely different? Yeah, short stories is a different ballgame.
Yeah, and it's definitely, like, I'll commend Tom. He has 2 POVs in his short story.
Mm.
That's something that's very hard to do, because of, like, what Alex says, is you have such little space to do a proper character arc for one person or one POV, let alone 2. In the world, and it really, my understanding of short stories is, or my thinking on it is, it really needs to almost be one scene. You can break up the scene over, like, maybe a course of a couple of days in the world, but it really needs to be one scene. You can't really be. And Lorraine did it, surprisingly, because hers takes place over years, surprisingly. But it's not easy to do a good short story if it's going to be little smaller scenes building up to something bigger. It really needs to kind of be one little steady linear arc.
And I know that it starts off. I just wanted to ask about kind of the formatting of the anthology, because I know that Alex, you said that you wrote a poem to start it off. Can you give a little background on how you're starting it off and the lineup of the stories?
Sure.
How you laid that out, where it kind of makes sense as it goes on, because I'm sure you can't just do same genre, switch. Like, there's got to be a little bit of a flow to it. So was that kind of a little bit of a challenge putting it together?
Bill and I talked about this quite a bit, and so I think first of all, starting off with a poem, I wanted something to kind of tie everything together and kind of address the theme and whatnot. And I wrote out a paragraph about this story is about blah blah blah. I was like, no, this sucks. So I was like, let's just do a poem. And so I put together a poem. I'm not a poet, so it's my best shot, but I kind of like it. It's a little weird. That kind of describes the secret scribes and the theme of the anthology. So, we start with a poem, and then the stories themselves. Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to do is kind of, so as Bill mentioned, there's kind of a different. Like some of the stories are a little bit darker, some of them are comedic, some of them are kind of a little bit more straightforward. What I wanted to do when we were putting these together is kind of mix that up and make it so that you didn't really know what to expect from the next story. It's like, oh, well, the first one might be super dark and the second one might be funny, and the third one, then you don't even know. Is it going to be dark? Is it going to be funny? Is it going to be kind of more traditional, like sword and sorcery? And so the way I structured the order of the stories is that it'll be a really good mix, and I think that kind of helps accentuate the rest of the stories because you don't quite know what to expect, and the next one you're like, oh yeah, this is a cozy whatever, blah blah blah, and then something dark happens, you're like, I did not expect that at all, and so in a way these stories kind of elevate each other by kind of having mixed genre like that.
It was a very when me and Alex were talking about it, it's a very high fidelity mixtape scenario. Remember the movie High Fidelity, where he talks about you have to kick it off strong, but then second one has to take it up a notch, and then you have to bring it down to the normal level to bring it back up again. So that's kind of what he did with that. I gave him my opinion on which stories I thought should go first, and we matched up almost pretty clear. We were on the same wavelength of which ones should go where. And, I think it is a good, strong opening. And then it goes in, like I said, like the High Fidelity where it goes up. And it's not to say that this number 3 or 4 is worse than 1 or 2, but it's just a different,
very different tone.
Different take.
Mm-hmm.
So it hits the right beats, and like Alex said, you don't know exactly what's going to come next, and it is good because all of us did mostly something different than our main stories are. Even if they're set in the same world, there is some differences to that, so it does feel a little bit different to what you would expect from us too. On the whole, there are Lorraine's is. It's definitely in that world, and it's definitely this character, but it is darker. But you would expect that type of story with what you're getting. But other than that, I think the rest of us, even in world ones, are a little bit different. Aside from Tom's, I haven't read the Corsair yet, so I'm not sure how that one reads. But I think it was pretty good mix and a pretty good setup, like Alex said, with the tone being different on all of these.
I love that, and I love the way that, especially you guys are explaining it's put together, especially where it's if 1 and 2 come out on a certain tone, 3, you're right, it doesn't make it where I see a lot of. I'm going to tie it back into my jam banding experience, but the way that a lot of bands that I see construct kind of even set lists, it's peaks and valleys, and it's the tension and release, and it's so the way that this is being laid out is, I think it's like almost the most interesting thing so far, because it's like you're not just reading an interesting story from each one of these incredibly talented authors, it's a journey through emotions along the entire way. So just hearing that alone, like I put Nick's comment up there, take my money. That's the sweetener for me, because that's something that like I do and I look for in my spare time, just like listening to music I enjoy. So hearing that's the way you guys kind of formulated this whole thing to go is it just boosted it up another notch for me. That sounds so sick and really great idea doing that. Major props. I did not expect to hear that. I guess it kind of makes sense because you guys are very creative and know what you're doing. But for me to hear it, it was like, oh shit, like that's.
Yeah, it's all deliberate. we put some planning and thought into it.
No, I love it. Pivoting away from the anthology for a second, like I said at the very beginning, I read both of your books. Bill, I'm working on Lady Drake Slayer again. 10,000 words.
Me too. I'm about 130 words in. 130 pages in. I mean,
I didn't know you started it already, Alex.
I did.
I have baby toys in the way, or I would snag them as well. But what are you guys working on outside of this? I know you both have some projects coming down the pipeline. Give us some background on that, Alex. I saw the artwork for your next one. Again, not saying anything. No, I don't know what I can and can't say, but I will say that the artwork for it is stunning.
So good. It's stunning.
So good. Yeah. It's up there with one of the best covers I think I've ever seen.
It's really good.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm still in the drafting phase, but I had an itch I couldn't scratch, and I needed a cover, so I did the cover for my upcoming. It's going to be a fantasy murder mystery, and yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Although I need to finish drafting it, but I'm hoping maybe early next year is the release of And Brains There Were None, which is what it's going to be called. Yeah, so it's going to be very like D&D style murder mystery. Lots of other races and dragon men and cat people and bird people and all this crazy fantasy stuff, but kind of a murder mystery set in a D&D style world. So that's what I'm working on right now, and I need to keep putting more words into it.
Lizard people, and Tim Wolf is going to come out in the background.
I hear lizard people. I'm like, glorious.
Yeah, you got to put something in to make everyone happy. So
exactly.
Bill, what about you? What's coming up?
So I'm working on a story that I've been tinkering with for many years now. It's called Death Show Colossus. It's I liken it as The Running Man, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, meets Shadow of the Colossus. But I know everybody and their brothers will say, "Oh, The Hunger Games." No, it's The Running Man. That's the vibe I'm going for. But yeah, I've been working on it, and the funny part is for those who have read God's Blood, the Emra and Logen plot lines were originally part of that Death Show Colossus original story that I came up with. So I'm having to pivot a little bit, but this is kind of a spoiler for Lady Drake Slayer, but I somehow managed to create it's not that much of one, Pete.
Okay.
I managed to create a multiverse just in general. So there is a flavor of the God's Blood in there, but it's only a little. It's going to be more popcorn. It's not going to be deep. It's not going to be complex. It's going to be a game show, a literal game show of climbing a Colossus and why they have to do that. But speaking of covers, I've been talking to the GOAT, Felix Ortiz, this week, giving him ideas, and he's trying to come up with something. So I should be getting that in September. So nice. I'm about a third of the way through drafting, hoping to be done by end of the summer to maybe go out to betas. I'd love to be able to release this year, but I don't know. If it does, it'd be at the very end of like in December, but we'll see.
And you said you were targeting a shorter word count with this one, right?
Yeah, 100%. This is going to be 70,000 to 80,000 max. Like it's, I have it outlined out right now, and I don't do great outlines, but it's right now at 70, hovering around 70. If I can keep it there, I'll be happy. Because I'm not doing any of these chonkers for a little while. I need a break from the chonkers.
Both of those sound great. I wanted to see, since you guys are doing the Scribes anthology, if you had to pick a theme for the Willow Wraith crew. Granted, a little bit more hectic, and there's quite a bit of crossover between the Scribes and, the WWP crew. But knowing the people in that group, including the new ones who we've added, what do you think? I saw Nick came in with a nice theme in there. I feel like that's almost a home run right off the bat. But
all right.
The question.
I think the theme would need to be cozy fantasy in a grimdark world. So it's like all this grimdark stuff's going around, and all the characters have to be completely unrelated to it. Like people are dying outside their window, and they're like, "Oh God, this again," and close the door. Or something.
Yeah, I mean, porridge would have to be in there.
Absolutely,
it'd be a 100% mandatory thing. Has to be in there.
Lizard people.
Yeah, lizard people. Whispers in the title. Yeah, I mean, I think it would have to be something like Alex says, where it's cozy in a grimdark world, because it's basically what our group writes is cozy and grimdark.
Yeah, like quite the spectrum in there, though. Like if you have like Dewey. And, you guys putting out that type of stuff.
Oh, gosh. If we could ever get Dewey to write a grimdark story, I would die a happy person, but that'll never happen.
I feel like he needs to. I feel like every time I've tuned into Smudging lately, his rating is over an 8. So I feel like if we just annoy him enough, we'll force the grimdark out of him. Like, it's one of those things where he's like the Hulk, where it's just like, what made you want to write something this dark? And he's like,
we were very close.
Dark all along.
We had to get rid of the roast channel, otherwise he would be writing that grimdark story.
Yeah, the channel that shall not be named.
And we had to send him off to Ireland for 10 days.
Yeah, go take a breather. Hit a couple pubs. As far as the WWP stuff goes, what do you think your favorite Porridge report has been so far? Because there have been a lot of good ones that have come out, including the being pretty one on Monday.
Most recent.
Yeah, there's been some good stuff. I gotta say, I was talking to Bill a little bit earlier, and I am very proud of the things that's been happening over here. Everyone's been contributing in such an awesome way, even starting to write more reviews, and I'll pick up slack on that a little bit, but just the camaraderie and general vibe of the group has really evolved.
We'll be in, for those in the chat and who watches the replay and listen to this on the podcast, keep your eyes peeled. We are going to announce some new members to the fold. Nick Betts already jumped the gun on Saturday at like midnight on Central Time. He announced he was in a cult, but
Nick.
SCKS. We're going to announce some new people, but to be honest, when I came up with the idea of doing the WWP group as a brand to be able to do what we're doing, it started slow, and I knew it was going to start slow. It was going to take some time, and then obviously when you two joined and some other people joined, and we started getting some momentum going, like that's really been awesome to see. Alex taking over the Porridge Report from me, just sitting in idle, has really been helpful. You obviously, Pete, starting up Realm Runners has been amazing, because we're getting new eyes on the YouTube channel, and the group as a whole. So it's just been awesome, and like everybody that's joined, we haven't shown everything that we have ideas for. But we've got a well-rounded group now. Like me and Audrey have been talking on the side about something else, which I got to bring you into, Pete, specifically. But yeah, we got some ideas and stuff. Well, no, because you're our reviewer, you're our reader. We need to bring you in on this concept. But yeah, it's been awesome. It's been so good outside of like the friendship side of things, like just in terms of being able to have something that is kind of recognizable, because people kind of recognize, like I've heard, through just random conversations, like, oh, you WWP people doing this, you WWP people doing that. Like with the same with the Secret Scribes, like it's starting to become known, that we're part of this group. So it's been so good to see. And me personally, since, the idea generated with me and Dewey, I've been beyond pleased. It's just been the coolest thing this last year, seeing everything come together. Like just, obviously things have taken a while to go off, but it's been so cool. And again, on top of that, adding all the cool people just to chat with and be around, that's the icing on the cake for me. But best Porridge Report, let me answer that one. My favorite one is Andrew's The Book That Wouldn't Burn one.
That was great.
That is the type of satire story that I just like cracked up. Like I literally laughed out loud when he sent that one over. I was like, this is perfect. Like this is what I was hoping for when we were discussing this originally.
So yeah, for my favorite Porridge Report is probably the song pairings for books. Because it's just such a good troll. When this is something that the community does quite often is here are the songs that go along with my book, here are songs I like to listen to while I'm reading, blah 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 blah. So like that concept is just ever present in the community, and then using that to troll ZB is just beautiful.
It was great, and Greg really did a good job of putting that one together, because it was epically long.
Yeah, it was so long. It was really good, and I think everything that is being done, especially with those different aspects, has been great. And again, tying it back to the Secret Scribes, I am also very happy to see that group pop off, because like I said, you guys were the first group of people where it was like, I'm buying every one of your books, and now I get to like be in a group with like half of you, I would say, and it's awesome, and I get to talk to the rest of like you guys. So it's been great. And I just saw that Lamia got nominated for a couple of awards, so I want to give her a special shout out to that, and congratulations on her child. And I know she's not a part of this anthology story-wise, even though she is artistically, but I do just want to give a special shout out. Alex is putting the book up, Wingspan of Treason, one of the best books I've read in my life, and I will go to the grave saying that. And
some of the best prose I've read in years.
Yeah, if you guys haven't checked this out, I completely agree with Pete and Bill. This is an amazing book, so definitely go give it a read.
Insane. And you guys do. I know everything's like so very indie, and like everyone's very approachable and kind of easy to talk to in those spaces. But I remember when my first Twitter usage was just to make fun of the Jets, which I'm still going to always do, but that's all I was. And I saw her post about the arc for that book, and I reached out, and she was like, I have like an e-copy if you want. And I was like, cool. Like, you know, that's cool. I was like, the art's like so amazing though. Like, if you ever have like a physical one, like, you know, just let me know. And she reached out like 3 months later and was like, someone didn't want it. Like, I still have this if you do, and sent it to me. And that always kind of just stuck in my head as such a nice thing that this, not only she did, but this community in general does, where it makes it so easy for someone like me who just loves books and loves reading them and then recommending them. And you know, you guys do a great job of getting the word across, not just for yourselves but for each other too. And that's why I'm so stoked that the scribes in general have this anthology coming out, because some of you guys write massive fucking tomes and some of you, and some of you guys write great coming of age stories, and this is gonna, it really has the whole spectrum, it sounds like, in between, with everyone's voice contributing to it. So I just want to give a special shout out to you guys for putting this together, and I this should be a given as a purchase. The talent's there, and I just hope everything goes as good as you guys deserve.
We'll see. Hope so too. I mean,
yeah, I hope so. You know, it's anthologies are kind of a different beast than you know, your epic fantasy trilogies or whatever. So we'll see. It's a new experience for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the key is we're gonna have to like come up with a marketing plan after we get it out, because we haven't even really talked about that. I mean, we have some ideas. You know, Alex is.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, but you know, it's different for, you know, 10 authors plus a cover designer, all, you know, bootstrapping an anthology, and you know, when financials come into play, it's different. You're not just yourself anymore. You're representing a dozen people.
Well, it's a strong fucking group of people. So, you know.
Yeah, there's some great stories, and you know, Dave will kill me if I don't mention him. So maybe now's the time to say, yeah. So Dave Lawson also wrote a story in the anthology, and it's all right. It's all right.
We went an hour without Dave. He was fading away from reality without mentioning him for an hour.
He was inspired by one of the other authors in the group, and so he kind of based his story on his imaginary perception of that other author, and then took it and put it into his own world, his Envoy's world, and kind of shaped it as expanding world building in I don't know, what is the Envoy's world called? Do you guys remember? I don't know what his world was called.
An actual, like the
Envoys of Chaos.
Yeah, that's the title.
Yeah, that's
yeah. I don't think it has like a world name.
The world name. Okay, well,
because
elsewhere in his world.
Yeah, it's about the bad guy group in book one.
Smut.
Gina, that's it already.
Okay, well, I will mention, because Dave also mentioned that, my upcoming murder mystery does have some 5 spice scenes in it. I go full graphic, and so it's if you want some smut, I'm working on it. But.
Ooh.
Stay tuned for Realm Runners After Dark.
Audrey says Sarakan. The world is Sarakan.
And
I think that's a country. That's the one country or one continent, and then the Isle of Wynn is a separate bad guy. Bad guy group.
Yeah.
Say
Where
Dave's
bad guys
world.
come from. I don't know. If only Dave were here to correct.
Dave's not even here anymore. So why are we talking about him?
Yeah, I
tried.
I tried.
We haven't mentioned him for too long.
That's how you get rid of him as a ghost, dude. Don't talk about it.
It's like the reverse Bloody Mary. You say Dave Lawson 3 times, he fucking bounces. He says
if
Audrey's Audrey's correct. But yeah, that really kind of ties everything together. Do you guys have any more info to share on anything, or are we going to keep the rest spoiler free and just stay tuned for when it releases?
Um, so I have two things I could potentially tell you. One is I did get, so like with Dave's story, I did get most, Bill didn't do it, of the authors to kind of tell me what inspired their story, and I could read that to you real quick. I think it's pretty interesting. Bill
Yeah.
will have to make his up on the spot, but all right. Well, I guess I'll start. Well, my story is inspired by the Japanese Edo woodblock prints, and my wife and I, went to a museum and saw samurais lining up on the streets to serve their feudal lords, their daimyos, and so a lot of the commentary around these prints was all about how everything in the culture at that period of time was focused on the pageantry of the ceremonies, and the rigid social structure within. And so I really wanted a very small scale story that kind of took place in a world like that while still being completely fantasy. But the cultural conflict between these samurai and the heads of state, where it's mostly ceremonial at that point in time, and so that's kind of where I placed my story. Bella said that her story was inspired by the belief that the veil between the mortal and immortal worlds is thinner on Halloween, and she wanted to tell a story about the connection of found family, but with a twist. And then finally, she's got a Dracula parrot that kind of sets the tone for the whole piece, and it shows up in the story itself. And that one's very interesting, the direction that story takes, because it's a little bit more modern setting, but still very fantasy. Rob's story, he says, doors open and shut when decisions are made. Decisions are driven by circumstance. And his story is about someone who's a victim of circumstance and their own decisions. Rachel's story, she wanted to write a story about someone who felt that their story was already over. Like the opposite of a coming of age, a tale about an ending. And the ending was only ever going to go one way because the sum of this person's experiences has entrenched her to this path. Greg wanted to tell a story where lies and secrets cost more than what they're worth. And he also wanted to have a fun thief character doing their best to get out in one piece. Sean, so his is kind of in the same world as Rebels Without a Clue and Spricket the Bard. These are all kind of interconnected in the world. And so he wanted to kind of treat himself to a little bit more of the Galzarian Empire, and form some building principles for what is Rebels Without a Clue. Sorry, that's what the novella is called. For checks, balances, and proper procedure in monster hunting. And he was also inspired by the rebel group in Monty Python's Life of Brian. And the confusing idealism and mismanaged tactics. This one is super funny.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Like I said before, Tom's is kind of, an introduction to the world of the Corsair, and we get to know one of the characters who's going to be part of the crew on the Corsair. It's interesting introduction to this character, and we already talked quite a bit about Lorraine's, and then Bill's. I have one word here, and it just says spite. So I don't know if.
Yeah, I don't really. So to make this long story short, at one point I had a 9-book series that was going to cover generations, and this short story was going to be one of those books. But I never went anywhere with it outside these first couple of chapters, and I had a nice little tie-up at the beginning there. So I just took that and played with it to meet the theme.
It's also a good expansion of Bill's world. We get to see kind of an area that we haven't seen in, at least not so far, in Lady Drake's Slayer.
It'll show up in book 3. It's in the Calderum, the area of Calderum where the Golden Throne is. It's in Sky Mountains. So it's called the Gloom, where it's like this giant mist and there's mountains. I don't know if you remember the movie Avatar, where they're flying up in the mountains and stuff. That's kind of how I envision Calderum being, and they have to sing. Like, these people are called gloom singers, and they have to sing to go through the gloom to be able to see, to use the magic. And the main character is an apprentice. It's a son, so it's a young kid. And then there's obviously a dragon.
Well, you mean a drake?
Well, a drake, yes.
Excuse me.
Hold on, Bill. This is your lore.
Literally unreadable.
Yep, exactly. At this point.
Yeah, well, this all sounds incredibly interesting. I think the inspirations behind everything is very cool to hear. So I'm glad you shared that. Hopefully that's in the anthology as well, because if people don't listen to this, which I don't know why they wouldn't, but in case they don't, I think that would be very cool for people to know, just on a general scale. That's my little input. But yeah, this was super awesome. I'm really glad that both of you guys came on and gave such good insight into what you guys in the Scribes have been working on. And I am incredibly excited to read all of these finished products and everything that comes out of them. So well before it comes out, good job. And, I'm proud of you all.
Pete.
Stop it, I'm sweating.
Don't tell your wife that.
I just keep reading smut and in the comments, it's just, I'm flustered.
That's basically what half of the Secret Scribes Discord channels are made of. Just smut. The word smut, not even actual smut, just the word smut.
Yeah.
Dave's alternate covers of our books with the smutty version.
Those should be color. Those are the broken binding versions that aren't going to make the cut, I think.
Yeah.
I think I smell a new porridge report. But yeah, thank you guys for coming on. Thank you everyone in the chat for contributing as well. There's some good stuff in there, and I appreciate it and look forward to this and what you guys, the Scribes, and everyone does next going forward. So thanks a lot for coming on, guys.
Thanks for having us, Pete.
Of course. And
keep Realm Runners going positive, my man.
Onwards and upwards. We'll keep trucking along.
Hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I am so terrible at ending these things, but I'm going to say bye again. And
here, how about we do this tomorrow? Smudging or Curmudgeon on the YouTube, on the Will Away Press YouTube channel with Alex Arch. Come join me and Dewey.
Yes, join that tomorrow.
8 p.m., same time.
And stay tuned next Monday as well for the next Porridge Report. See, I'm plugging everybody. Exactly. And then stay tuned next Tuesday for Realm Runners, and then the Wednesday after that for Smudging.
Keep going.
We got lots of content coming up, guys. So
lots happening. But all right, see you guys later.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate y'all.
Bye.